number one on the list. On today's current events here in worldwide news, we have Nigeria. Sambi Duzaki, Nigeria's national security advisor, has been arrested due to illegally possessing weapons. Later last month, he was searched and found weapons and firearms on him. He claims that they were in his possession but did not belong to him, but they belonged to his security guard. This is the first account of a senior official being charged while President Muhammad Buhari has been in presidency. Once we get into office, once he got into office, he put an effort toward trying to curb corporations to make sure military was taken care of. During this effort, President Buhari had replaced many senior officials, including Mr. Uzaki. There was also the second one was Nigerian general jailed over Boko Haram attack on Baga. There was a military court in Nigeria that sentenced a general to half a year in prison because of his involvement in a military takeover by Boko Haram. General Kuti was convicted of not carrying out his duties when the militias that were Islamic State the town of Baga. A plethora of civilians were killed when Boko overtook the town and took a substantial amount of weapons. The general's lawyer put out a statement saying that he is going to appeal the decision. The general is part of a celebrated Nigerian family. This is on a separate occasion. He was later found guilty for loss of equipment in the attack on the headquarters. The troops were complaining that they were not getting proper equipment to fight. Now, on to China. China inflation eases by more than expected. The Chinese Consumer Price Index has risen 1.6% just in September compared to the National Bureau of Statistics. The procedure's price has dropped for a 43rd straight month. While this is happening, manufacturers have cut prices to win businesses. In separate Chinese, PPL fell 5.9%, which matches the decline they had in August, which was also the lowest it had ever been since the financial crisis. Due to growing strains on Chinese companies, manufacturers have to continue to cut selling prices to win the businesses. The fact that the producer prices are getting weaker, which is threatening to erode the money coming into Chinese firms and aiding to their debts, isn't helping. On to other news in China. China chain imposes filial piety tax on employees. The Chinese culture is very strict when it comes to things like respect, but has one company taken respect to a whole new level? There was an altercation on the internet about a company in China where employees were made to give part of their salary to their parents. This is a whole new level of so-called respect. The salon company was trying to support a good moral values when it comes to their employees. According to the Chinese tradition, the parents receive part of their children's salaries once they start earning a wage. There is a law that says once you move on from your parents, you have to go visit them, but this policy is a little extreme. The company said those who disagree will not be hired. Now on to another country, Iran. Inside Iran's revolutionary courts. Iran has secret Islamic revolutionary courts that are set up to try suspected ideological opponents of the regime. These courts run without a jury, defense lawyer, and most often without any hard evidence other than the confession that they get from the defendant by torturing them. There is some footage of one of these trials from 1981. It shows moments from a man named Sirius was shot and killed. He was leading members of a religious minority called the Baha'is. They were seen in the eyes of the rulers and had people who had got to power 2 years ago earlier as a part of an Islamic revolution. In Older revolutionary courts trials were almost always had in secret. There was no need to investigate if people had committed a crime, says the Iranic academic Dr. Muhammad. Just being just being against the regime was enough in these courts. They were very cruel and malignant toward the people just to get information. There was something called a death commission, which was made up of three people that justified issues the fast and brutal, terrifying, arbitrary. In order to get the confession, torture was a necessary thing for them. Authorities started to worry about releasing the people back into the general population after the torture they went through because it had a destabilizing effect. Iran's parliament backs nuclear deal. Iran's parliament has just blocked a deal on the nuclear program that agreed with 6 different world powers. There was a vote that went on 161 to 59 in favor of the program. Parliament has requested that the international inspectors should have limited access to the military site. They came to an agreement in July. It lifted the restrictions in return for Iran putting nuclear activity to the side. Iran said that their nuclear program is 100% peaceful. But who really believes that? The deal with Iran and the United States, United Kingdom, France, China, and Russia with Germany, also called the P5+1, finally came to a concluding agreement after a 20-month negotiation period. Mexico. Now, war zone at the border, abuse of migrants in Mexico rises. Mexico has been campaigning to stop illegal immigration in Central America countries to the United States. This has brought complaints from the migration officials about abuse. There have been reports of violent attacks and extortion. The United States stepped in and pressed Mexico, which then forced President Nieto to launch a plan which would supposedly make Mexican southern border safer for Mexican migrants. As more and more Central American immigrants got caught trying to enter the United States, the abuse complaints go up. Some activists say that the majority of the abuse complaints go unreported. The drug gangs in Mexico often prey on the weak when it comes to the migrants crossing their turf. As of right now, it is very dangerous to cross Mexico. It has never been this bad in the history of Mexico. How one Syrian student could start a wave of refugees to Mexico. Mexico is well known for welcoming refugees from countries in war persecution from places all around the world. When the conflict over Syria broke out, the Mexican government has done very little to help. Due to the 4 million Syrian immigrants, it brought the worst migration problem in Europe since World War II. Most of Latin America have been in shadows when it comes to the Syrian immigration. While neighboring countries have been helping, Mexico being quiet is starting to come to an end. President Nieto said he is allowing as many Syrian refugees as possible. If Mexico didn't help the Syrians, there would have been a myriad of issues for them. There is a petition asking for President Nieto and foreign affairs ministers to allow all 10,000 Syrians who left the conflict in their countries and let them into Mexico. Now on to Russia. Syria conflict, Russia intensifies airstrike. Russia is increasing the number of airstrikes on the Islamic states in Syria. They said it's part of their defense ministry. Within the last day or so, Russia has had a large number of Islamic states in Syria. The Syrian rebels disagreed and said that they were hitting non-Islamic state targets. The United States stepped in and accused Russia of unnecessary airstrikes and building conflict more than it needed to be. These strikes recently killed 29 terrorist training camps, which is a good thing. Russia's airstrikes have been hitting camps that are a huge threat to the Syrian government. There is a concern that two countries are going to clash while pursuing opposite bombing campaigns over in Syria. There was a 90-minute conference call call all about air safety during the Syrian bombing campaign. During the call, they were going over specific safety procedures. Now, Russia's deadly new weapon striking fear into the West. Russian president has has sent drones and different weapons over to Syria. He has also sent spy weapons, which will probably be the most effective in the long run. Russia is trying to protect their nationalist credentials. I think Russia is trying to flex their guns on the Western rebels in Syria. Which all with all of this new high-tech equipment, it is getting easier to spy and attack other countries. This intelligence weaponry is a great example of hybrid warfare tactics. There is a huge saying of no-fly zone in Syria, which is allowing for control of the skies over the Middle East. Electronic warfare is one of Russia's greatest strengths. Russia want to get in between the United States' interests so that it's located where they want it to. They would like to support the Allies so that they can show its pick and stick. But by doing all of these, nobody really knows what Russia's end goal is, but it's definitely not sitting well with the rest of the world. Now on to our last ones. Great Britain. Immigration policy hasn't worked so far, says David Cameron. Immigration is a big problem in the United Kingdom. Prime Minister David Cameron said that their immigration policies have not worked at all, and this is a problem. Homeland Security said that social cohesion would be impossible with this many immigrants coming into the United Kingdom. David Cameron said that he was committed to getting people coming in and out of the United Kingdom under 100,000, which is doable. With the climbing number of people coming into the UK each year, not only is Prime Minister David Cameron frustrated, but so are the people of the United Kingdom. They have taken many steps to cut down on the problem, but nothing has seemed to click yet. Some people don't want any control on immigration, which I think is not the smartest idea. Because of all the immigration, the government is losing a lot of their debt. So there are benefits of migration to the British economy and society. UK drone fleet to double in fight against IS, says PM. Says Prime Minister. David Cameron has announced that he will be doubling the amount of drones in the UK due to killing of 2 British men in RAF-operated drones. David Cameron believes it is essential to the deal with the threat head-on. The new drones are called Protectors. They have a longer flying time and have more advanced weaponry. These new drones will keep the people safe due to new intelligence equipment on the drones. Mr. Cameron also said that he is going to beef up the special forces by giving them new equipment. David Cameron said all this was necessary to deal with one of their biggest threats. He didn't want to have to use drones. It soon became a last resort due to the attacks. David Cameron promised to take whatever steps is necessary to keep Britain safe, people safe from terrorist attacks. Oh, that was all the time we have here today on World News. I'm Isaiah Woolfolk, signing off. Have a good night, Forest Park.